The wolf never fears the barking of sheep. It only sharpens its fangs. My dear chosen ones, listen closely. The ones who came against you never feared your weakness, because you were never weak. What they feared was what you could become after the fire. They feared your rise before you even knew you were rising. They feared the quiet storm that lived inside you, because storms don't announce themselves. They arrive, break, and reshape everything in their path. And that's what you are, the storm that terrifies them, not because you destroy without reason, but because you expose everything fragile, fake, and hollow around them. They didn't come at you because you were small. They came at you because they saw the shadow of your future power. You weren't just a threat to them. You were the expiration date of their illusions. Your silence made their gossip sound like screams. Your growth cracked open every lie they tried to build their confidence on. They didn't just pick a fight with you. They picked a fight with something far bigger, something they could never measure or control. And here's the truth. When they aimed at you, they signed their own downfall. Tell me, chosen ones, do you wonder sometimes why the attacks were so relentless? Why betrayal came from people you trusted? Why setbacks stacked against you like a wall? I'll answer that for you. Because walls aren't built to stop you. They're built to see if you'll break them down. And you did. You crashed through every trap they laid, every whisper they spread, every door they tried to slam shut. You turned every insult into fuel, every betrayal into bricks for your empire. They thought you'd drown in silence, but you learned to breathe underwater. You see, being chosen isn't about ease, it's about pressure. Diamonds are made under pressure, steel is forged in fire, and chosen ones are built in the chaos everyone else runs from. You walked through flames while they prayed for your ashes, but instead you came out glowing, unscarred and untouchable. They hate that. They hate that you carry scars not as wounds, but as warnings, proof that you've been through the battlefield and you're still standing. Here's what they'll never admit. You were their nightmare long before you became their reality. They mocked your silence, but silence is strategy. They mistook your patience for weakness, but patience is a weapon sharper than any blade. They thought throwing dirt would bury you, but you were a seed, and seeds grow. Chosen ones, you didn't just survive. You evolved into something they can't compete with, something they can't copy, something they can't stop. And yet you still question yourself, still doubt your light, still ask if you're enough. Let me burn that doubt out of you right now. Lions don't explain themselves to sheep. Eagles don't flap harder to prove they can fly. And you, chosen one, don't need permission to shine. Your very existence is proof that no weapon, no rumor, no scheme ever had power over you. If it did, you wouldn't still be here, stronger, louder, and more dangerous than ever. Understand this. Every breath you take is a reminder to your enemies of the battles they ran from. Every step you take is a thunderclap against their cowardice. You are the mirror they avoid because it reflects the truth they can't bear to face. That's why they run. That's why they hide. Not because you chased them, but because your presence alone exposes everything they're not. So rise, chosen ones. Carry your silence like thunder, your scars like medals, your presence like a weapon. You are not here to be liked. You are here to be remembered. And now your enemies know exactly what the title has already declared. And listen closely, my chosen ones. This is where your power gets real. If this message is hitting your spirit like a mirror you can't look away from, show it. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and drop the number 77 in the comments to let the world know you're walking with unstoppable fire. Every click, every comment, every bit of support sends a signal that the chosen are rising while the cowards are running. You are not ordinary, and this message isn't for ordinary people. Only the dangerous, only the rare, only the chosen will feel this truth in their bones. So stay locked in, because what's coming next will prove exactly why no one has ever been so dangerous like you, and why your haters are running for their lives. And now, let's break it down step by step. If you're truly chosen, you'll recognize every sign I'm about to reveal, because they've been chasing you your entire life. Let's get started. Number 1. The system can't track what moves in silence. They thought they had you mapped out, but you don't live on their grid, you haunt it. My dear chosen ones, listen carefully. The reason your haters are running is because you're the glitch they never accounted for. They built a whole system expecting you to play along, but you didn't just step outside their rules. You tore up the entire rule book. You move in silence, off the map, beyond their algorithms of control. That's why they can't predict you, can't track you, can't chain you down. You are dangerous, not because you shout the loudest, but because your silence is lethal. While they scramble to gossip, plot, and whisper, you sit calm, calculating, reshaping the board before they even know the game has changed. Chosen ones, they thought you were just another page in their story. What they didn't know is you were the fire that burned the book. You weren't built to be a puppet pulled by strings. You were built to cut the strings, step off the stage, and build your own theatre. That's why they hate you. Not because of what you've done, but because of what you represent. Freedom they'll never taste. Power they'll never hold. Clarity they'll never find. And you may ask yourself, why me? Why are the attacks so relentless? Why do the betrayals and silent battles never end? The answer is simple, chosen ones, because you are the threat that never needed an army. Your presence alone is disruption. Your existence is the virus inside their code. The flaw that proves their control was always fragile. They thought they could bury you, erase you, or silence you. Instead, your very being shattered every illusion they built to feel strong. Let's be real. The hate was never personal. It was mechanical. You scare them because you can't be predicted, bought, or broken. You don't play by the program. You write your own. While they were busy fitting into boxes, you were breaking out of cages. While they were rehearsing for the crowd, you were practicing in the shadows. And now, every step you take echoes like thunder, shaking the ground beneath them. But here's where many chosen ones stumble. In the middle of this fire, you start doubting yourself. You start asking if your light is too much, if maybe you're better off shrinking. That's where you're wrong. You didn't come this far to fold under pressure. You didn't endure storms to crawl back into cages. Pressure didn't come to destroy you. It came to reveal you. Remember this, chosen ones don't ask for permission. They don't wait for applause. They move because the move itself is power, and that's why your enemies are running. They've realized something terrifying. You're not just playing the game, you've become the glitch that exposes the entire system. They can't fix it, they can't debug it, and they can't stop it. So stand tall, chosen ones. You are the ghost in the machine, the error they never saw coming, the dangerous presence they can't erase. They thought you'd be predictable, but you became untouchable. That's why they run. Not because you chased them, but because your very existence is the storm they can't survive. Number 2. Every attack became the blueprint of your rise. They tried to bury you under bricks, but you built a fortress with them. My chosen ones, let this sink in. Every attack, every betrayal, every whisper they threw your way wasn't a defeat. It was construction material. They thought the blows would break you, but all they did was hand you the blueprint of your own rise. That's why they run now, because they finally understand the nightmare they created. Every weapon they formed against you only sharpened you, only upgraded you, only made you more dangerous. Think back for a moment. They lied on your name, but the lies forced you to stand taller in your truth. They turned their backs, but their absence trained you to walk alone with strength most can't even imagine. They left you in the dirt, but dirt is exactly where seeds are planted. That's why you sprouted, that's why you glowed up, and that's why your enemies choke every time your name comes up. Chosen ones, you didn't just survive the fire. You learned how to control it. You studied the patterns, the betrayals, the setbacks, and instead of crumbling, you mapped out your comeback. That's what makes you lethal now. Because while they thought they were breaking you down, you were quietly gathering knowledge, learning precision, building resilience brick by brick. You stopped reacting like prey and started moving like a predator, silent, calculated, unstoppable. And I know the question that haunts your mind. Why did they come at me so hard? Why couldn't they just let me live? Because your very existence was proof that their power was fake. You were the receipt they didn't want printed. Your rise exposes every weakness they've tried to cover. That's why they feared you from the start. That's why the attacks never stopped. But look at you now. You're not carrying a chip on your shoulder. You're carrying receipts. Every scar is a page in your blueprint. Every sleepless night became a foundation stone. Every moment you thought you'd break became proof you couldn't. You are walking evidence that nothing they did worked. You are the storm they tried to silence, and instead you became the thunder they hear every time your name echoes. This is why the title is your truth. No one has ever been so dangerous like you. Your enemies run, not because you chase them, but because your rise proves every attack was wasted. They built the weapon. You built the empire. Number 3. Not a victim, not a villain, the architect of ruins and empires. They thought breaking you would bury you, but all they did was hand you the blueprints. My chosen ones, listen closely. They tried to script your life like a tragedy, victim when you stayed quiet, villain when you set boundaries. But here's the truth they choke on. You were never built to play either role. You are the architect, the one who takes ruins and builds empires out of them, the one who turns betrayal into bricks and silence into steel. That's why they fear you. Not because you cried, but because you created. Not because you lost, but because you built again, stronger, sharper, untouchable. Victimhood, that was their favorite mask for you. They wanted you to stay broken enough to be controlled, desperate enough to be overlooked. Villain, that was their backup story once you stopped accepting disrespect. But neither of those labels fit the chosen ones. You are not the victim of their chaos, and you are not the villain in their lies. You are the architect of something far greater, a reality designed by your resilience. Let's ask the question that burns in your mind. Why me? Why does every collapse land in my lap? Because, chosen one, you are the only one built to rebuild. Others run from rubble. You sift through it, find the foundation, and raise a tower where they swore there would only be ashes. They gave you wreckage, and you gave back monuments. That's the power of being chosen. And that's exactly why your haters are running. They watched you walk through destruction they thought would erase you. Instead, you came back with blueprints in your blood. Every scar became a line in the plan, every rejection a reinforced wall, every betrayal a new floor to your empire. They thought you were done. Instead, you were drafting. They thought you disappeared. Instead, you were designing. Remember this, my chosen ones. You are not defined by the ruins they left you in. You are defined by the empire you are quietly building in plain sight. And when it stands tall, they won't just see the structure. They'll see themselves in the cracks, in the bricks, in the very foundation of what they tried to destroy. And that truth? That's why they'll never stop running. You are not their victim. You are not their villain. You are the architect. And architects don't just survive collapse. They design what comes next. Number 4. Your presence speaks louder than any revenge ever could. Your silence is louder than their screams, and your presence is the punishment they can't escape. My dear chosen ones, understand this. You don't need to clap back, you don't need to argue, and you don't need revenge. You've already won the moment you walked into the room. Your presence alone carries more weight than any insult, more power than any rumor, more sting than any betrayal. That's why your haters are running. They can't stand to be in the same space as the living reminder of everything they failed to break. Think about it. You don't even have to speak, and yet the air shifts when you arrive. People lower their voices, eyes dart away, laughter turns nervous. Why? Because your growth, your resilience, your glow exposes them without you saying a single word. They feel small because you got big. They feel weak because you got strong. They feel fake because you stayed real. That's not arrogance, chosen ones. That's impact. And maybe you've asked yourself, why do they act so strange around me now? Why can't they just move on? The answer is simple. Because your existence is their consequence. You don't need to rub anything in their faces. Your evolution already does that for you. Every step you take screams, "You tried to bury me, but I grew anyway. You tried to erase me, but I became unforgettable." That's louder than revenge. That's power. Revenge fades. Words fade. But presence, true, undeniable presence, lingers. It sticks in their throat like something they can't swallow. It haunts them long after you've left the room. That's why they avoid eye contact. That's why they gossip in corners. That's why they run. Not because you did something to them, but because your very being reminds them of everything they couldn't destroy. Chosen ones, never forget this. Your glow is their karma. Your success is their payback. Your peace is their punishment. The best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's walking in power so boldly that they can't pretend not to notice. You've turned your silence into thunder and your presence into a mirror that forces them to see their own cowardice. That's why they run. Not from your words, not from your actions, but from your undeniable presence. And that presence, chosen ones, is the most dangerous weapon you'll ever carry. Number 5. Trauma didn't break you, it engineered your power. They tried to bury you in pain, not knowing pain was the forge that sharpened your blade. My dear chosen ones, let's set the record straight. Trauma was never the end of you. It was the beginning of your rise. The very battles they thought would finish you became the blueprint of the dangerous version of you standing here today. They threw chaos at you like stones, and you built a fortress with them. They thought betrayal would crush you, but betrayal only taught you precision. They wanted the silence of your suffering, but that silence turned into strategy. You are not the same as you were before the pain. You are sharper now, quieter, deadlier in ways they'll never understand. Trauma didn't weaken you, it engineered you. It taught you to read energy before words. It taught you to move in silence while everyone else moved in noise. It taught you that not every door deserves to be opened, and not every hand deserves to be held. The very weight that should have broken you became the training ground that made you unstoppable. And yes, chosen ones, I know you've asked yourself, why did I have to go through all of that? Why so much betrayal? Why so much loss? The answer is clear, because ordinary people can't carry extraordinary power. You were refined in the fire that others ran from. You learned discipline in the loneliness, clarity in the chaos, and wisdom in the wounds. What scarred you now serves you. What hurt you now shields you. That's why your haters are running. They see it now. The version of you trauma built is not soft, not naive, not easily broken. You became the storm they can't calculate, the mirror they can't face, the energy they can't corrupt. You don't need revenge, your growth is revenge. You don't need to scream, your presence alone reminds them they failed. Chosen ones, trauma was never your weakness. It was the blueprint of your throne. Every scar is proof that you endured what others could not. Every lesson is a weapon they'll never see coming. And now, when you walk into a room, they don't just see you. They see everything they tried to kill but couldn't. That's why they're running, because no one has ever been so dangerous as the one who turned pain into power. Number 6. Exile wasn't your ending. It was the throne room of solitude. They thought pushing you out would silence you, but all they did was crown you in the quiet. My dear chosen ones, listen closely. Exile was never the end of your story. It was the setup. They thought leaving you isolated, abandoned, and stripped of connection would crush your spirit. They thought pulling their energy away would starve you. But solitude didn't destroy you. It transformed you. What they called exile was really the coronation, the private ceremony where you claimed your throne of power. They didn't understand that chosen ones don't need crowds to feel complete. You don't need noise to prove relevance. While they needed applause to feel alive, you only needed silence to grow sharper, clearer, more dangerous. They ran from you thinking you'd beg for their return, but instead, their absence became your weapon. The empty space they left turned into the ground where you built your strength. Chosen ones, let me ask you, haven't you noticed that your greatest clarity came when you were left alone? That your deepest breakthroughs arrived in the seasons when no one was clapping for you? That wasn't punishment. That was preparation. The solitude became your strategy. The quiet became your compass. And what they thought would bury you ended up birthing the most unstoppable version of you. Remember, exile only feels like exile to people who fear themselves. But you faced the silence head-on. You sat in it until it spoke back. You discovered that you weren't empty. You were overflowing with power they could never handle. That's why they ran. Because your solitude exposed them. Your calm made their chaos louder. Your independence revealed their weakness. Now when you walk into a room, they feel it. That stillness you carry, that's not loneliness. That's dominance. That's the throne you built when no one was watching. Exile turned you into someone who doesn't chase, doesn't beg, doesn't explain. You know your worth, and that terrifies them, because people who can stand alone cannot be controlled. So hear me, chosen ones. What they thought was rejection was really your elevation. Solitude was not your cage, it was your crown. And now, every step you take reminds them of the truth. Exile didn't break you. It built the throne that they'll never have the courage to sit on. Number 7. Intuition is your 4K vision in a world still blurred. They smile in your face, but your spirit already saw the knife before they pulled it. My dear chosen ones, this is why you're dangerous. In a world full of blurred lines, fake smiles and hidden motives, you see in 4K. Your intuition isn't just a gut feeling, it's your radar, your weapon, your shield. While the crowd walks blind, you see betrayal before it forms. You sense energy shifts before words even drop, and you know when someone's presence doesn't match their performance. That alone makes you a threat they can't stand. They hate that you don't need proof. You don't wait for the mask to fall. You feel it slipping before anyone else notices. They call you paranoid, too intense, too sensitive. But chosen ones, you're not paranoid. You're precise. You've lived through too many knives in the back to ignore the weight of a hand on your shoulder. You've learned to read patterns, not promises. You don't need screenshots or receipts because your spirit already clocked the lie. That's why your haters are running. They can't hide from someone who sees through camouflage. Ask yourself, why do people get uncomfortable around you for no reason? Why do they stutter, avoid your eyes, or over-explain themselves when you're in the room? Because your presence is X-ray vision. You don't just hear what they say, you hear what they mean, and that unsettles them. Your clarity exposes their chaos. Your knowing unmasks their games. They can't stand next to you without feeling naked in their own dishonesty. Chosen ones, your intuition is not a burden. It's your edge. It's what makes you untouchable in a world built on facades. While they're busy putting on shows, you're busy noticing the cracks in the stage, and that's why you can't be trapped. They can plot, they can plan, they can rehearse their betrayal, but your spirit already saw the ending before the play began. So don't ever doubt this gift. Don't water it down to make others comfortable. Don't second-guess the chills, the knots in your stomach, the whispers in your mind telling you something's off. That's your 4K vision cutting through the blur. That's your silent weapon. And it's exactly why no one has ever been so dangerous like you, and why your haters are already running away. And now, chosen ones, you see it clearly. Every attack, every lie, every silent battle was only proof of your danger. They're not running because you chased them. They're running because your very existence exposes them. This is your season to stand taller, move sharper, and live louder. If this message hit your spirit, smash that like button, subscribe, and drop the number 77 in the comments so the world knows you're unstoppable. Share this with another chosen one. Let them feel the fire too. Your rise is undeniable, and your enemies already know it.